I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Friday, December the 5th, 2014. Convicted Israeli spy Jonathan Pollard was reportedly hospitalized today after losing consciousness in his jail cell. Pollard, who is 60, suffers from various health ailments, but it is not known why he lost consciousness. His wife Esther said she has not been given any further information about his condition. Israel Radio reported today that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called Esther Pollard today and expressed hope for Pollard's speedy recovery on behalf of the people of Israel. Jonathan Pollard was arrested in 1985 for spying for Israel and later sentenced to life in prison. U.S. President Barack Obama has nominated Ashton Carter as the United States' 25th Secretary of Defense, replacing outgoing Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel. Ynet reports that Carter is said to have good relations with Israel, having worked in coordination with several director generals of the Israeli Defense Ministry. Carter was also in charge of establishing the Joint Forum for Coordinating Weapon Procurement and equipping Israel with the advanced F-35 stealth fighter. Carter's first official trip to Israel was in 2013, where he met with Israeli Defense Minister Moshe Ya'alon and other officials. While visiting an IDF K-9 unit, Carter told the soldiers there that protecting America means protecting Israel, and that's why we're here in the first place. The White House announced yesterday that U.S. Vice President Joe Biden will address the 2014 Saban Forum in Washington, D.C. this weekend. The forum is an annual dialogue between American and Israeli leaders from across the political and social spectrum. It is organized by Israeli-American philanthropist and Hollywood producer Chaim Saban and the Center for Middle East Policy at the Brookings Institution. This year's forum is entitled Stormy Seas, the United States and Israel in a Tumultuous Middle East. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry and former U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton will also be delivering remarks at the forum, as well as Israeli officials and politicians, including Israeli Labor Party leader Isaac Herzog, Minister of Economy Naftali Bennett, and former Justice Minister Tzipi Livni. Hundreds gathered at the United Nations this week to remember and pay tribute to the hundreds of thousands of Jewish refugees who were forced out of their homes in Arab countries after 1948. The event was called The Untold Story of 850,000 Refugees, the Tale of Ancient Jewish Cultures in Arab Countries. It was co-hosted by the World Jewish Congress, the Permanent Mission of Israel to the UN, the Conference of Presidents of Major American Jewish Organizations, and Justice for Jews from Arab Countries. Israel's ambassador to the UN, Ron Prosor, spoke at the event and called on UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon to work to create a research center dedicated to the cause. Prosor said we must collect the evidence and tell the story of the Jews who were expelled from their countries. The UN will not erase the pain, he said, but it certainly can express it. The Associated Press reports that the United States and France have struck a deal to compensate Holocaust victims deported by the French national railway company SNCF. U.S. lawmakers last year, led by New York Senator Chuck Schumer, reintroduced bipartisan-backed legislation seeking to hold the state-owned rail company accountable for its role in transporting Jews to their deaths during the Holocaust. The French Foreign Ministry and U.S. State Department announced a deal today for a $60 million compensation fund that would be financed by France and managed by the United States. Under the agreement, hundreds of Americans, Israelis, and others deported by the SNCF during the Nazi occupation will now be entitled to compensation. Up until now, France has only paid reparations to French citizens and certain other deportees. The state-owned rail company transported about 76,000 French Jews to Nazi concentration camps during the Holocaust. And the World Jewish Restitution Organization announced that the Jewish community of Zagreb, Croatia, will receive land and an office building from the Croatian government as restitution for property expropriated during World War II. The building is meant to replace one built in 1927 that was owned by the local Jewish Burial Society that was confiscated by the Nazi-Allied government. The income from the new property will help provide funds for a senior care facility in the community and other programs. Head of the WJRO negotiating team and Executive Vice President of B'nai B'rith International, Daniel Mariashin, said this is a long-awaited but important first step in addressing the legacy of the Holocaust in Croatia and ensuring that the Jewish community can continue to revitalize itself in a democratic Croatia. Jewish community leaders have taken on the Food Stamp Challenge this week to call attention to the national crisis of hunger and poverty in the U.S. The challenge is hosted by the Jewish Council for Public Affairs. It entails living for a week on $29.40, the average amount of money a food stamp recipient receives. JCPA President Rabbi Steve Gutto said the challenge provides a glimpse into the hardships faced by so many Americans, and that he was taking the challenge for the fourth time, not only to send a strong message of support for federal anti-poverty programs, but he said, "I want there to be an annual week in the American and Jewish calendar when we all stop and take notice of those who live in a different world than most of us can even imagine." And that's the JBS News Update for Friday, December the 5th, 2014. Remember, live Shabbat services are coming up at 6 o'clock tonight from New York City's Central Synagogue. I'm Teisha Bader. Shabbat Shalom.